All right, so we have the first part of the main navigation menu created, which is the nav itself. Now for the actual menu items. Now, there's some really cool things that we can do here. Let me flip back over to my code just for a second. As a matter of fact, my HTML code. All right. Now, if I look at my HTML code, what we have here are boxes inside boxes, or containers inside containers. So in other words, I have a nav container, and then inside that nav container, I have an unordered list container, the UL, and then inside the UL, I have list items. Okay? So what I can do is I can make use of this structure that we have here, containers inside containers, to help me control these various containers via CSS. Okay, now if you have no idea what the heck I just said, what I mean is that we can make use of what's referred to as a compound rule. Okay, think of conditional formatting. If this object appears inside that object, then make it look like this. Okay, if you've ever done conditional formatting inside some of your other applications. So what I want to do here is I want to say, if a list item happens to appear inside a nav element, then do XYZ to it. So here's what I mean. I'm going to flip over to styles.css, and just beneath my nav element there that I went and set up there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, if I have a nav that contains a list item, just like this, so nav space li, then I want to do some stuff to it. So it's pretty cool. This is called a compound rule, and you can use these in all kinds of different scenarios. Pretty cool stuff. Now, the thing that I want to do to my list items, if they should happen to appear inside a nav element, is actually really, really simple. I'm going to say display. If I could spell display, there we go, full colon space, and then inline. If I have a list of items inside a navigation element or a nav element, then make them appear inline. All that means is make them appear horizontally. Okay? Go ahead and save up your style sheet and flip back over to your browser and refresh, and voila, instant navigation menu, just like that. Okay? So in other words, the conditions that I specified were met. I do indeed have list items inside a nav element, so they all take on the instructions that the CSS is telling them to take on. All right, now one thing that I want to do just to finish this off before we move along here is all of these items are kind of jammed together, and I need to do a little bit more formatting in terms of, straightening these guys out. But what I want to do for now is I just want to space them apart a little bit. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use some HTML. Okay, so I'm going to flip back over to my code, back into index.html, and here's what I'm going to do, and I meant to do this earlier on, but we'll do it now, is after each of my list items, after the closing of the hyperlink, but before the closing of the list item, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to drop my cursor right in there, and I'm going to type in space, vertical pipe, space. Okay, now your vertical pipe is the same as your backslash key, way over on the right-hand side of your keyboard. And I'm going to insert this after each of my menu items. Okay, so I'm going to grab what I've typed in here and I'll copy it. And I'm going to drop it inside the exact same spot for each of my list items after the anchor, after the hyperlink, but before the list item closes, like so. Okay, all the way through the entire nav menu. And that's going to space things apart for me, at least on a temporary basis. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save up my work and back to the browser and refresh. There we go. Something like that is just fine for now. It's not perfect, but I think for our purposes for now, before we really kick it into high gear with formatting, I think this will do just fine. All right, good stuff. Now, there's our navigation menu out of the way so we can move on to the rest of our layout.